Welcome to another episode of Geriatric World. My name is Dr. Thomas. I'm a geriatrician. Today I'm hoping to talk about a very important topic, which is financial abuse. How do older adults protect themselves from financial abuse, and how can family members also help in protecting older adults from experiencing financial abuse? So, the first aspect of an older adult being able to protect themselves from a financial abuse involves what they can do legally. First and foremost, every older adult, I do strongly advise to please go and get a durable power of attorney. There are two documentations for durable power of attorney. One that designates somebody to make decisions for them medically, and another which allows someone who's been designated to make decisions for them financially. These documents are incredibly important because it allows them to choose somebody that they absolutely trust who will act in their best interest when they're not able to speak for themselves. We will primarily be focusing on the financial power of attorney. And this is a document that allows someone who the designant, who the patient has designated or the older adult has designated to make financial decisions for them. That is the power to be able to buy, the power to be able to make payments on their behalf, to manage their financial investment. The most important thing to recognize about filling out the power of attorney is that even though you filled it out, it does not mean that the person you have designated can immediately start to act on your behalf. So for the power of attorney to become active, it is important that the older adult is assessed to see if they are having issues in being able to make decisions, financial decisions for them. And that assessment is done by two physicians. This assessment is actually called a capacity assessment, and it is where the physician is assessing the patient's ability to manage their finances. It brings up two terms: capacity, which is a medical terminology, and competency, which is a legal terminology. What I will plan to do is make another video that explains the difference between capacity and competency. But this is something that it is absolutely important that every older adult have a durable power of attorney that designates someone who they trust and they know that will act in their best interest if they are not able to make those decisions for themselves. Also, I cannot stress very much so the importance of making sure that the person that is designated to make those financial decisions is somebody that you will trust, somebody who would act in best interest and will not take financial advantage of the older adult. Sometimes it is one person, it could be two people doing it jointly. Also, in most cases, there is the primary person who's chosen, that is the first designant. And if that person is unable to perform that function, then it falls on the second designant, who can then go and act in the best interest of the older adult. The way an older adult can be protected from financial abuse is if they have a guardianship in place. This tends to occur when an older adult does not have a durable power of attorney in place for finances, and now they're having problems being able to make financial decisions for themselves. In those situations, an assessment is done by a physician, which also is filed along with the paperwork to the court, and then a judge then determines that the patient does not have the competency to be able to make decisions for themselves financially. And then a conservator is then appointed, who then, on behalf of the patient, will make financial decisions for themselves. That conservator has to yearly file paperwork to show to the courts that they are acting in the best interest of the patient. And if they are not, then they could be taken off. They could be taken off being the conservator for the older adult. The other aspect of protecting older adults from financial abuse involves very simple steps. One is that I always advocate for my older adults to think about a friend, a child that they trust, a close family member, and add them onto their bank account. Not to be able to withdraw from their bank account, but to be a second set of eyes to look over if there are transactions that are occurring that are making sense, for them to be able to flag those issues sooner than later. I also highly recommend that whoever is designated, that they check those accounts at least weekly to make sure that if there are red flags, they will be able to alert the older adults, but also alert the banks. A lot of the banks now are very willing and open to investigating transactions that that might be suspicious. It is important to note that when you add a child or a friend to your account, it does not mean that they now have the authority to be able to go into your bank account and withdraw money from your bank account, transfer money out of your from account to another account. This has to be designated by the older adult. So you can add them on just to be almost like just a read, when you have a document and it's only a read-only document where you cannot do anything, you just can look. Also, a lot of credit cards now do have monitoring services, and those services occur in such a way that if you have a credit card and there is a transaction that is suspicious that occurs, they will automatically close down the credit card and call you to verify if you were the one that made those transactions. Some credit cards, it automatically comes with those credit cards. Sometimes other credit cards, you have to sign up for those services. This is very important because, again, there are a lot of people out there that are looking for people who are vulnerable, and older adults are quite vulnerable because sometimes technology and things that are happening are changing so quickly, and sometimes it's hard to understand. So I highly recommend, if you have a credit card, sign up for those services if it does not come automatically with your credit card. The way older adults can protect themselves from financial abuse is by trying to avoid a lot of the phone scams. And a lot of the phone scams have become quite sophisticated. I actually recently had an experience where I received a call that says they were calling from the Social Security office. And I had previously gotten a call from the Social Security office, and this call sounded very much official and quite legitimate. But I chose not to. I chose to hang up the phone, and then I realized that I could do a reverse number search. And when I did do a reverse number search, it became quite apparent that this was actually a scam. So I always tell people, if anybody is calling you and saying they're calling you from Social Security office and you're not sure, just hang up the phone. Do not give them any information. A lot of cities do have an actual location where you could go to the Social Security office. So I have a family member, a child take you down to the Social Security office so that you can actually talk to them in person and verify what information is needed and what are the steps that you need to carry out. But please do not give out any of your Social Security information over the phone. Um, Also, anybody that is calling you asking for your bank account, your credit card, your date of birth, please don't not give those information willingly. I also ask older adults to also, when somebody calls you and says they are calling you from your credit card, um, do not give them those information. But also, what I would advise is, when you hang up the phone on them, do not call that number again, because when you call that number, you're calling the fraudster. So what you might want to do is go ahead and look. A lot of credit cards, behind the credit cards, do have the actual number for you to contact your credit card company. So go ahead and find the actual numbers for those um, um, financial institution and call those numbers so that you can verify, really, are they the ones calling you, or is it somebody who's a scam? So another aspect of protecting older adults from financial abuse is through protecting them from mail fraud. So a lot of older adults do get information on sweepstakes, but they're fraudulent sweepstakes, which is saying, we want you to provide us $100 so that you can get $1,000, for example. And those, I do tell them, please do not send a check. Do run this by your family member. Try to have somebody look it up on the internet. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, to make sure that this is really it's legit. It's a legitimate thing before you act on it. Also, you also can have older adults which get information through the mail that says, could you send us your social security information? Or I do absolutely recommend that they do not respond to those letters, but take those letters and go to the actual social security office and have a conversation with somebody down there. Um, the other aspect is also true. Sometimes you have older adults are targeted for their mortgage, through reverse mortgage. So they say to them, we will give you a check right now of $10,000. And then at the end, when you pass away, we'll own your house. And when they provide them that check, when they pay it into their bank account, they're also charging exorbitant amount of interest. So by the time the older adult passes away, they owe like $80,000 or more, and this is theft. And so it is important that when this happens, that you reach out to Adult Protective Services, because this needs to be investigated and they need to be prosecuted. Family members, as they try to help older adults manage their finances, I always tell them, first and foremost, recognize that this is a privilege. The fact that your mom or dad is now saying, I need help, it is a privilege that they are asking, that they trust you enough to say, can you please help me? And so please do not abuse it. Please do not talk down to them, because it is important to recognize that it takes an enormous amount of humility for them to approach and say, I need help. And when when children starts to work, or family members start to work on their finances, and you start to see the checkbook is not balanced and there's a lot of misappropriation of funds going on, please do not scold them. Recognize that they are asking for help because they need it. And so, what I do say to people is that you want to form a partnership. You want to treat them with respect. I always ask that when older adults are having their children help them with managing their finances, that they have like a set time, maybe monthly, where they have a time where it's carved out where they can both meet together and go over the bills that need to be paid, if there is investments that are being moved around, so that they are still involved and they feel like they are having a say in how their money is being managed. I have found that when children do take over helping mom and dad with their finances, one of the things that a lot of children do is set up automatic payment. Even when you set up those automatic payments, it is still important to set up some time to go over what is coming in, what is going out, so at least the older adults knows that they still have an autonomy and a say in how their money is being managed. This is absolutely important, because again, when it comes to money and finances, there's a lot, sometimes there are issues and a lot of distrust. So you want to make sure that they are feeling like their voice are heard and they're well supported, and they're not feeling like they do not feel that their family is taking advantage of them or stealing money from them, because that creates an atmosphere of distrust on both sides, but it also puts them at risk of being taken financial advantage of by people out there who are looking for vulnerable older adults. I do absolutely advocate that if older adults do have a lot of investment, that they find a money manager who is somebody who can help them manage some of their finances and helping them with understanding the investment. But when they do that, I also encourage them that they have one of their family members, either a child, a friend, a niece or a nephew, somebody who's a little bit versed in understanding the financial market. That can be a second set of eyes and ears, so that they are ensuring that the money manager is acting in their best interest. Also, when finances are being moved around, I it is important that it is always documented. If it's not documented, it never happened. So when situations of financial abuse do occur, which can occur from strangers who are looking for vulnerable older adult, it can occur from family members taking advantage of mom, dad, aunties, uncles, stealing money from them. It can occur from banks. A bank employee moving money out of people's account and stealing. It can occur from money managers. It can occur in so many different ways. And when those things do occur, I do absolutely advise that Adult Protective Services be contacted. Every city in America does have an Adult Protective Services. Even though sometimes they might be limited in terms of the amount of resources that they're able to provide, but they might be able to provide information that could allow for investigation and prosecution of these cases, and sometimes recuperation of the amount that was stolen from the older adult. I hope older adults and their children and family members find this information helpful on how to protect older adults from financial abuse. Stay tuned. I will be uploading videos that will talk about capacity, competency, what is the difference. That is something I think we might get into a little more detail, but also to talk about medical power of attorney and why that is also needed.